This is a new guy to the estuarium. He has been here less than 10 minutes. He was caught in a crab trap down at the boardwalk at the Sands Beach here in Port Royal, and was brought in by a friend of mine who was crabbing today. Now, the spider crab, there are subspecies around the world, and another common name for these animals is decorator crab. Now you will observe attached to this guy's body is all kinds of stuff. Let me get a pointer here. I see a piece of shell right there, and this is what looks like a plant. That's actually an animal. It's one of the bryozoans. Many of the things in our estuarine system that look like plants are actually animals. Well, all kinds of hydroids and stuff. Let me turn him a little bit. Now, do you see the orange right there around his eye? I'm pretty sure that is a red-beard sponge that is growing on this animal. And I haven't looked to see whether or not it's a male or a female yet. Let me see if I can see underneath. Here, raise up. I don't want to distress this animal. Like I said, it is brand new in captivity, and I'm just going to cut it some slack, and we're going to leave this animal alone. I did want to get some video of it first coming here. We'll spend some more time with this animal over the coming days, and you'll be able to learn more about spider crabs, or decorator crabs, whichever you care to call them. Here's our spider crab, who's been in a holding tank in the wet lab for the last couple of weeks now. He's about to move into his new home out in the main display room. Now, I know I keep referring to this creature as he, but that has yet to be determined. Let me move this shell here. I'm going to pull this creature out, and I will have a look-see. I think it's a male. A lot of algae on the underside. Let me get him out of here. This is indeed a male. It's a little difficult to see with the coating of algae that he carries, but right there is the abdominal plate. From there to there. The female abdominal plates, you recall, on crabs, no matter the species, goes all the way across to the leg joints. So this guy is a male. Let me put him down. Spider crabs are known to be rather lethargic, not particularly quick moving, and there are two species found locally. The common spider crab and what is known, and I don't know how it got its name, what is known as the doubtful spider crab. And the way you tell the difference is by the number of spines on the carapace. The common spider crab has 9, and the doubtful has 6, and they run down through the center of the carapace. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. try to spin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It appears we have a doubtful. We have a doubtful spider crab, and he will very soon be moving into his new home. This is to be the new home for Mr. Doubtful. It's a 10-gallon tank. It's plenty big enough for him. The reason I chose it is because it is the current home of this anemone. This is a brown anemone, even though it lacks pigmentation. Brown anemones get their pigmentation from a brown algae that lives within them. This animal, though, has not been living where it receives enough sunlight to maintain that species of brown algae within it. It lives just fine without the brown algae. It's actually a symbiotic relationship between the anemone and the algae, with the anemone serving as a host home for the algae, and the algae providing a certain amount of food for the anemone. This anemone, however, is fed quite well, eating pieces of shrimp mainly, and so it really doesn't require the algae within. And the reason I'm putting the spider crab in here is because I want to see if he will try to attach this anemone to his carapace. Again, you'll recall they're also known as decorator crabs by using places of their environment as camouflage. That's one of the things I'll be interested in observing over the next few days as to whether this anemone winds up gracing the carapace of Mr. Doubtful. We will now introduce Mr. Doubtful to his new home. Let go. All right, let go. You can let go. There you go. Now we'll give him a little time to acclimate himself to his new digs, and in a couple hours I'll offer him some food. There we go. And as I said, it will be interesting to observe to see if in time he and the anemone here hook up. So, in a couple hours I'll feed him and tell you a little bit more about spider crabs, and then that'll be it. Okay, it's now been a couple hours since this guy was introduced to his new home environment, and it looks like he's trying to work his way up underneath that piece of oyster shell a little bit, or a little bit of cover. He hasn't made friends with the anemone yet. I didn't expect him to this quickly. There's the anemone, just a few inches away. So we're going to offer this guy a bit of food now to see if that would show that he's comfortable in his new residence. Now, there are two species of spider crab found in our area. I can give this to him. You hungry? We'll let that sit. Alright. There are two species of spider crab found in our area, and they, as I said earlier, they're found from Nova Scotia south through Florida and into the Gulf of Mexico. There are spider crabs found throughout the world, and one we would not have here. It is the Japanese spider crab. They can have a body of a couple of feet in length and a leg span of 6 feet. They're found in the Pacific Ocean. It's the world's largest crab, and it is a direct relative, a direct cousin of the species that we have here. We're going to leave that piece of food with that with that guy right for now, and I'll check later. If he doesn't take food today, I will be removing it so it doesn't sour the water in his tank. But they're usually pretty voracious feeders, and I expect him to be on his feed fairly shortly. So we're going to be enjoying this guy for some time to come. Last night I got to thinking about the spider crab and how I'd come to the conclusion that it was a doubtful as opposed to a common regarded species by counting the spines and coming up with 6, which was the number of spines on the carapace that the doubtful has. I got to thinking about the fact that it was very tough to feel anything on the front part of the crab when I got up into this area, because there was an awful lot of algae growth there, and I was wondering, did it really make sense for the spines to stop at number 6 when you had this area in front? And I happen to think of this guy who we've had for a while now. It was donated. It's been in the freezer. It's being freeze-dried for a dry display, and as I recalled, it didn't have nearly as much algae growing that had been on it when it was brought in as the guy that we have now in the tank. And so this morning I have pulled this guy out, and I have found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spikes. And these last 3 are very, very small, and I think that may be the case with the guy that's on display now. We will know for sure at his next molt. He will emerge with a perfectly clean exoskeleton, and we will do another count to determine whether he is a doubtful or a common. Alright, you will recall that yesterday when the spider crab was introduced to his new home, that he wasn't interested in food, and we're going to try him again today. Now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to feed the little anemone, which will put the scent of food into the water, and we'll see if that raises any interest in the spider crab. There's a little tiny bit. Did you see how it grasped and pulled that little tiny piece of shrimp in? That's how the anemone feeds. It has tentacles, and it captures its food with its tentacles. Now, I don't expect to see the spider crab at this point jumping up and down. In the future, as soon as he smells food in the water, though, he's going to get rather excited. My guess is he's still settling in. I am going to go ahead and offer him a piece of fish here in the interest of time, and we will see if he's hungry today. Now, get a piece of fish here on the knife, and yeah, here we go. Now, if he were going to eat, there, are you interested today? There. He has taken it. You see his mouth parts starting to work. There we go. The spider crab is feeding, and what's interesting, if you'll observe there, remember we talked about the red-beard sponge growing around that eye. The bryozoan, the branching bryozoan that was on his back when he was first brought in, is no longer there. And again, what we're going to be observing over the days and possibly weeks to come is whether or not he will try to incorporate the anemone here into his camouflage. So he's in his new home, he's feeding now, and so we will leave it at that until something of interest